probably edited this out so that people can't hear what you just said. So I'll just repeat what you said for the people that are watching this right now, which you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ant-Man is the most powerful, important character in all of the MCU and the biggest and best Avenger.
Paul Rudd's latest role has him singing, dancing, and breaking hearts in Dublin. He plays a wedding singer opposite a fading pop star. It's his first musical since college, but there's a twisted reason he said yes. The script contains secrets about his real-life marriage that nobody knew. His wife wrote parts of it. The songs reveal personal details that shocked his own family. Filming required content warnings. He broke character laughing during the most emotional scene. What happens between him and his co-star changes everything. This performance will destroy his nice guy image forever. Paul Stephen Rudd was born on April 6, 1969, in Passaic, New Jersey, but the road that led to him being born in America had started long before, in places filled with fear. His great-grandparents had fled Eastern Europe sometime between 1890 and 1920. They escaped the pogroms that ripped through Belarus, Poland, and Russia, killing thousands of Jews. They left everything behind just to survive. When they got to Ellis Island, the family name Rudnitsky felt too dangerous, too foreign, so they changed it. That's how Paul Rudd became a Rudd. His father Michael worked for TWA, not as a pilot or anything fancy, but as a tour guide and employee. In the 1970s, he earned just $18,000 a year. His mother Gloria worked in TV station sales in Kansas, making around $15,000. Together, they pulled in $33,000 annually. That wasn't enough. The family moved constantly, lived in cramped apartments, and when TWA laid off 8,000 workers in the early 1980s, they needed food stamps to get by. Paul grew up surrounded by struggle, not luxury. Then came a secret so strange it didn't seem real. In 2019, Paul casually told Conan O'Brien during an interview that his parents were second cousins. They had met at a family reunion in Edgware, London, in 1965. Their families were against it. For 2 years, they didn't speak. But in 1968, they got married anyway, in a small ceremony in Surbiton, with just 12 guests. Paul didn't know about any of this until he was 16, digging for his birth certificate to get a driver's license. That's when he found their marriage certificate, and the truth hit. The second cousin marriage carried a higher risk of genetic disorders, about 1.7%, and the family had shared physical traits like their jawline and early onset arthritis, which Paul developed at 45. In high school, Paul wasn't just funny, he was intense. At Shawnee Mission West, he joined the forensics team and got 5th place nationally in humorous interpretation at the 1987 National Forensics League Tournament out of 2,847 people. But the piece he performed wasn't funny. It was about a serial killer's last meal. Paul researched actual death row inmates, read their letters, visited Kansas State Penitentiary 3 times, and even exchanged 47 pages of letters with convicted murderer Gary Claypass. His coach, Janet Morrison, got so disturbed by Paul's method acting she thought about pulling him from the team. 2 judges walked out during his regionals performance. He never did another piece that dark again. In 1986, when he was just 17, he took a job at Holiday Ham Company in Overland Park. His job was glazing hams. It paid $3.35 an hour. The room was freezing, 40 degrees, and he worked 6-hour shifts glazing up to 400 hams a day. The glaze had corn syrup, brown sugar, and chemicals that caused his hands to bleed. He got dermatitis so badly, he needed ointments that cost $89 a month. That was almost 3 weeks of his pay. He was written up 14 times for vomiting on the job. He saved $2,147 to pay for acting classes. The smell of ham haunted him so badly, he went vegetarian for 3 years. To this day, he still gags at the sight of glazed ham. Paul loved comics, but not American ones. He was obsessed with British comics like The Beano and The Dandy, which his uncle mailed him from London for $23 a package. By 14, Paul had 847 issues, each in acid-free sleeves that cost $156 total. Money he made mowing lawns at $5 a yard. He developed a slight British accent from reading them, and Kansas kids didn't get it. They teased him for saying brilliant or rubbish. Teachers said he was smart but socially awkward. At 17, he applied to Oxford. The application cost $67. His parents talked him out of it, saying American schools were cheaper. Moving had wrecked him. He went to 7 schools in 4 states by the time he was 16. TWA kept relocating his dad, and Paul often slept on inflatable beds in company housing. He only owned 2 suitcases worth of things and didn't have his own bedroom until he was 13. He was held back in 3rd grade because the schools kept changing and he fell behind. He developed a stutter from the stress and had to go to speech therapy, but the insurance only covered 60%. The family still owed $200 in therapy bills by 1984. Paul became good at changing who he was. Every school, a new Paul. That helped him become a better actor, but it also made him unsure of who he really was. From 1987 to 1991, he studied theater at the University of Kansas. He joined Sigma Nu fraternity and helped raise $15,000 a year for charity. His GPA was 3.2. He didn't care much about grades. He wanted stage time. At the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, he studied with Matthew Lillard. Paul once did a 45-minute improvised monologue as a depressed insurance salesman. His teachers couldn't believe it. He did 23 student productions, usually playing romantic leads, even though casting directors thought he was unconventionally handsome. His senior project was a one-man show about a Kansas farmer. He performed it 12 times. Each night got a standing ovation. In the summer of 1990, he went to the British American Drama Academy in Oxford. He was 21. He stayed for 89 days, studied Jacobean drama under Professor Margaret Richardson, and performed Bosola from The White Devil in his final project. His tuition was $8,500. He paid for it by DJing 47 bar mitzvahs across Kansas City that year, earning $150 each under the name DJ P. Rad. He still has the business cards. The whole Oxford trip cost $12,000 and nearly bankrupted his family, but it gave him the classical training he'd use for the rest of his life. His first big on-camera moment came in 1991. It was a Super Nintendo commercial for Super Metroid. He was on screen for 15 seconds and earned $500. That commercial got him an agent. Then he booked Sisters on NBC in 1992. He played Kirby Quimby Philby. At first, he made $200 an episode. By season's end, it was $2,500. He moved to LA, rented a $650 a month studio in Studio City, and learned tricks from Cell Award, his co-star. He also survived something he never told his parents. On March 1993, at 2:47 a.m., Paul was outside a 7-Eleven on Sunset Boulevard when a man pulled a .38 revolver on him. The robber asked for his wallet. Paul hesitated. The man fired. The bullet missed his head by just 2 inches. It left powder burns on his scalp. Police report, Sana 93 and 45782 confirmed everything. Officer Maria Santos said he showed remarkable composure. Paul went to work the next day, filming a club scene for Sisters. He didn't tell his parents for 6 months. After college, his dad offered him a job, $45,000 a year, benefits, a company car. Paul said no. He moved to LA with nothing, no help. He waited tables at Kate Mantilini in Beverly Hills for $400 a week. He walked dogs, house sat, worked as a birthday party mascot. He once wore a cartoon costume for $75 a gig. He kept a journal. In 1 year, he had 23 jobs. He once ate ramen for 11 straight days. Everything changed in 1995 when he got Clueless. That same year, he turned down an $85,000 a year role on General Hospital because he didn't want to be tied down. He wanted to wait for something big. In 1995, Paul Rudd was 26 and not yet famous. But that changed when he played Josh in Clueless, the smart, slightly smug college guy who wasn't just Cher's ex-stepbrother, but also her slow-burning love story. The film was made for $12 million and pulled in over $56 million. But it wasn't just money that changed his life. It was that strange mix of annoyance and warmth he gave the character. When he delivered lines like being picky about shoes that only go on his feet, people remembered him. His chemistry with Alicia Silverstone made it real. He wasn't just another pretty face. He was the nice guy with something sharp underneath. The next year, in 1996, he got cast as Dave Paris in Romeo plus Juliet. This time, he wore a corporate suit and played the polished rival to Leonardo DiCaprio. The film was intense, loud, filled with color and chaos, and shot mostly in Mexico City. Baz Luhrmann demanded perfection and pushed every actor past their comfort zone. The $14.5 million budget kept growing as the sets grew bigger and the takes got longer. Rudd called it surreal. He learned how to act in extremes, how to say Shakespeare with meaning, even when the world around him was exploding in neon. It made $147 million and showed that Rudd could handle art and style, not just charm. Then, in 1998, he took a risk. In The Object of My Affection, he played George, a gay teacher who becomes deeply connected with his pregnant best friend Nina, played by Jennifer Aniston. It wasn't a simple rom-com. It was messy, human, about love without clear labels. Rudd researched deeply. He talked to gay teachers. He sat in support groups. He didn't want to fake it. Shot over 8 weeks in Brooklyn and Manhattan, the film didn't break records, but critics saw something in him. The way he showed restraint and conflict without overacting, it mattered. He wasn't just a supporting player anymore. He was quietly proving he could carry emotion without needing to shout. In 1999, he joined the Cider House Rules and played Wally, the clean-cut fiancé of Charlize Theron's character. Wally goes off to war and comes back paralyzed. That role meant something. Rudd trained with injured veterans to understand the shift, how it feels to go from strong to helpless. He didn't overdo it. He played it real. The film, set in 1940s Maine and shot over 12 weeks, dealt with everything: abortion, incest, morality. But Rudd's quiet presence made the love triangle believable. It earned Michael Caine an Oscar and made $88 million. Rudd didn't steal the spotlight, but he was steady, dependable. That counted. Then, in 2004, everything changed again. Anchorman came out, and suddenly, Paul Rudd was funny. Really funny. He played Brian Fantana, the Cologne-obsessed reporter who believed every woman wanted him. Rudd wanted that role so badly, he called his agents over and over, which he never did. He got it. He improvised the 60% of the time it works every time line. He made up the jazz flute bit. He picked a crowbar in the famous news team fight and then randomly pulled a gun. The movie cost $26 million and made $90 million, but it did more than that. It made Rudd a comedy star. Ben Stiller was almost cast as Brian, but it was Rudd who made the character unforgettable. A year later, the 40-year-old virgin cemented it. Rudd played David, another electronics store guy stuck in heartbreak. He earned around $100,000 to $300,000 for it, but the film made $177 million. The masturbation joke with Seth Rogen was totally improvised. Judd Apatow cast him because of Anchorman, and that started a long friendship. Rudd's everyman feel made him Apatow's favorite. His improv wasn't flashy. It was just real, honest. The chemistry was so good, they all kept working together. Steve Carell's career exploded. So did Seth Rogen's. But Rudd became the glue. Funny, likable, easy to watch. Even when a movie didn't work perfectly, like 200 Cigarettes in 1999, Rudd stood out. He broke his toe in an unscripted brawl during the party scenes. The injury delayed the film and forced rewrites, but it added something raw to his scenes. The movie only cost $2 million but struggled after that. Still, Rudd played heartbreak in a party crowd like he actually lived it. That kind of honesty kept following him. By 2007, Knocked Up happened. Rudd earned $3 million. He played Pete, a laid-back husband who escapes to fantasy baseball games. Every dinner scene was half improv. He ranted about time travel, DeLoreans, kids ruining his life, all off the cuff. Leslie Mann played his wife, and their fights felt too real to be scripted. They were so good together, they got their own spin-off. This is 40. In one scene, Rudd farted for real, and Mann stayed in character, yelling at him. Even that stayed in the film. It worked because it felt like something from your own house. That movie made $219 million. In Role Models, Rudd became more than an actor. He co-wrote the script. He played Danny, a man who's forced to mentor a kid through medieval LARPing. During filming, he fractured his wrist in a fall, but didn't stop. The writer's strike halted the rewrites, so he had to lock in the character fast. He improvised speeches about honor and fantasy, quoting fake Paul McCartney songs. People believed those songs were real. The film made $92.4 million. Rudd wasn't just showing up anymore, he was building things. Even his 10-minute role in Forgetting Sarah Marshall earned him $2.5 million. He played Chuck, or Kunu, the stoner surf instructor who couldn't remember his own age. Most of it was made up on the spot. The fake name, the philosophy, the spaced-out vibe, all Rudd. People still quote him. And yes, that nude scene? A prosthetic. But no one cared. He stole every scene. In 2009, I Love You, Mann made him the lead in a buddy comedy that grossed $93.4 million. He played Peter, a man with no male friends, trying to find a best man for his wedding. His air drumming to Rush felt so natural because it was. He'd done it in real life. The movie opened with $17.8 million and stayed in the top 10 for 5 weeks. It even got nominated for Best Kiss at the MTV Awards, losing to Twilight, but still, Rudd's charm was becoming a brand. Then came Dinner for Schmucks in 2010. He played Tim, a man forced to bring an idiot to a dinner for rich jerks to laugh at. The film opened behind Inception with $23.5 million and ended with $86.9 million worldwide on a $69 million budget. Not a flop, but not a smash. Still, Rudd held it together. Even when the story was uneven, he gave it heart. The studio pushed the release to avoid clashing with Salt and Inception, but that didn't help much. The movie barely made a profit, but Rudd's performance was still one of the few things people remembered. In Our Idiot Brother the following year, he played Ned, the naive organic farmer with a beard, a dog, and a heart so open it got him in trouble. He said yes to the role within 24 hours of reading the script. It shot in 30 days across New York, Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Hamptons. It cost just $5 million to make and pulled in $25 million. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it didn't need to be. Critics called it too charming to resist, which also described Rudd perfectly. Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars. He didn't have to try hard to be likable, he just was. Then came Bobby Newport in Parks and Recreation. He ran for Pawnee City Council against Leslie Knope and became one of the show's most beloved side characters. He was clueless, rich, soft-spoken, and somehow still impossible to hate. He said lines like, "My thoughts on abortion are, can't we all just have a good time?" With a smile so empty, it became comedy gold. He appeared in 7 episodes and won a Critics' Choice Television Award for Best Guest Performer. He was the perfect mirror to Leslie's fire. And he didn't just vanish, he came back in the final season to wrap it all up. The producers loved him. Viewers did too. But none of that compared to what came next. In 2015, Paul Rudd became a superhero. Not just any superhero, Ant-Man, a role he almost didn't get. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in the running. Edgar Wright was supposed to direct. But then, everything shifted. Rudd teamed up with Adam McKay to rewrite the script. For 6 to 8 weeks, they sat in hotel rooms across coasts, reshaping the entire thing. McKay was stunned. He said Rudd's writing talent was real, especially his dialogue. At the same time, Rudd was transforming physically. With trainer Brendan Johnston, he started brutal 5 a.m. CrossFit workouts. His diet was strict. No sugar, no alcohol, no freedom. He said it was horrible. But it worked. He looked like a superhero. His salary for that first Ant-Man film, $300,000. Not much by Marvel standards, but it was just the beginning. The script they rewrote shifted Ant-Man from dark to funny. Edgar Wright left the project when creative differences grew too wide. But Rudd stayed. He even insisted on doing his own stunts. That's how committed he was. During one scene involving live fire ants, he had an allergic reaction. Still, he kept going. He treated the ants like co-stars, not props. Method Studios even slowed the ants down in post-production to make them feel like characters. And somehow, Rudd made a man who talks to ants feel real, feel funny, feel human. Then came Captain America. Civil War in 2016. Rudd was 47 and suddenly growing into a 50-foot giant man. The entire scene was digital. Over 200 VFX shots just for that transformation. His performance as a big drunk baby became the animator's guide. His famous "Hey guys" line was improvised. But behind the scenes, the harness work messed up his back. He needed months of physical therapy after. ILM ended up replacing nearly all practical elements of the airport battle. It became one of the most CGI-heavy scenes Marvel had ever done. But none of it worked without Rudd. His physical comedy, his timing, his warmth, it grounded the whole thing. By Avengers. Endgame, everything had changed. Paul Rudd earned $8 million, but more than that, his ideas became canon. The time travel story that drove the entire film? Rudd had suggested using the quantum realm as a time machine years earlier, even before the first Ant-Man was filmed. Kevin Feige confirmed it. Rudd pitched quantum mechanics like a scientist, and the writers ran with it. He even improvised lines with Karen Gillan in the time travel scenes. When a rat triggered the quantum tunnel and brought Ant-Man back, it wasn't just a twist. It was the moment that saved the universe. And Rudd's face, confused and heartbroken, made it believable. Then came Quantumania in 2023. His salary hit $20 million, but things weren't easy. The film cost $388 million to make and didn't earn back much more than that. The MODOK CGI was criticized. Rudd himself admitted the effects were too much. He insisted on learning the dance choreography for the MODOK face-off instead of using motion capture. The digital world building got out of hand. Even the VFX supervisor called it the Super Bowl of filmmaking. Rudd tried to bring it back to character, to story, to emotion. But Marvel was already shifting, and he felt it. When Paul Rudd stepped into the dusty halls of a haunted Oklahoma school in Ghostbusters, Afterlife, he was already carrying more than just proton packs and nostalgia. It was 2021. Theaters were barely open. The world was still masked, spaced, and uncertain. But somehow, this quiet movie about ghost traps and legacy made $204.4 million worldwide, with $129.5 million coming just from the US. Only 12 films crossed $100 million domestically that year. And there was Rudd, not as a superhero, not as a billionaire, but as Gary Gruberson, a seismology teacher with awkward charm and real heart. Director Jason Reitman had written the part for him. That mattered, and Rudd made sure to honor it, working under strict COVID rules in Canada, pouring himself into every scene that blended comedy, romance, and real emotion. He brought popcorn warmth to a cold year. But that wasn't the only version of Paul audiences saw. 2 years earlier, in 2019, he had done something far stranger. In Living with Yourself, he played both Miles Elliott and Miles Elliott. One was a broken-down copywriter. The other was a sleek, improved clone. Same face, same voice. But something felt off. And that was the point. Rudd had to act against tennis balls and green screens, switching between despair and confidence, sometimes in the same sentence. One of those versions of Miles even considered suicide, and Rudd had to show that spiral without ever losing empathy. It was 8 episodes of psychological ping-pong, and the Golden Globes noticed. He got nominated. Critics said he had never gone darker or deeper. Then came The Shrink Next Door, where he stopped being the nice guy completely. Based on a real podcast, the show had Rudd playing Dr. Isaac Hirschkopf, a smiling, smooth-talking psychiatrist who spent nearly 30 years manipulating one patient's life, business, and even his Hamptons home. Will Ferrell played the victim. The two hadn't worked together since Anchorman 2. Now, the laughs were gone. Rudd studied cult leaders, con artists, and every quiet predator he could find. He worked with coaches to perfect the speech patterns. In real life, Hirschkopf had his license taken away in 2021. On screen, Rudd made people feel just how easily charm could hide danger. By 2025, he flipped the script again. This time, it was Death of a Unicorn, premiering at SXSW on March 8th with a wide release later that month. He starred alongside Jenna Ortega, playing a father named Elliot, who accidentally hits a unicorn while driving through the Canadian Rockies. It sounds absurd, but it wasn't just fantasy. Ari Aster, the man behind Hereditary and Midsommar, co-produced. The movie was a horror comedy with real teeth. Rudd performed many of his own stunts. The unicorn was a creature built with practical effects. Critics said it was his most physically demanding role, and yet, he still found ways to make people laugh through the blood and madness. Just when people thought he'd done it all, he teamed up with Jack Black for Anaconda, a 2025 meta-comedy that reimagined the 1997 snake thriller. Rudd played Griff. Black played Doug. They were two middle-aged friends trying to remake their favorite childhood movie deep in the Amazon. It cost $85 million to shoot. Filming in Colombia was brutal. Heat, rain, real snakes, animatronics. The Jurassic World effects team helped. Black called Rudd a sweet pea and said he was the only reason he joined. The movie was part nostalgia, part midlife crisis, and all heart. They weren't trying to be cool. They were just two guys chasing something they lost. Off-screen, Rudd had his own stories. In 1995, during Clueless, he got mugged outside Jerry's Deli in Studio City. A man high on something put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. The bullet missed, but went through his hair. After that, everything slowed down. He left LA, moved to New York. Years later, while promoting The Shrink Next Door, he talked about going to therapy and how that trauma still lived in him. He was only 26 when it happened, and it shaped the way he saw the world. His personal life was quiet but strong. He met Julie Yeager in 1995 when she was working publicity for his team. She was the first person he saw when he moved to New York. They got married in 2003 after dating for 8 years. Their son Jack was born in 2006, and daughter Darby in 2010. They split time between the city and a farmhouse in Rhinebeck. There, they co-owned Samuel's Sweet Shop with Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Hilary Burton. Julie became a screenwriter. She wrote Fun Mom Dinner. Paul produced and acted in it. Their marriage was so steady that Judd Apatow based some scenes in Knocked Up and This Is 40 on them, especially Paul's obsession with fantasy football. Not everything was funny. In 2008, Paul's father, Michael Rudd, died of cancer at age 66. They had been close, though they hadn't talked deeply until the end. Paul later made a documentary about the experience. His dad had worked in radio, loved animals, and left behind one final lesson. Treat people the way you'd want to be treated. Paul says that stuck. His father's family had changed their last name from Rudnitsky to Rudd to escape anti-Semitism in England in the early 1900s. Paul grew up Jewish in Kansas City, where being Jewish was rare. He keeps kosher on some holidays, hosts seders, not religious, but connected. In 2017, while filming PBS's Finding Your Roots, he learned something no one in the family expected. His parents, Michael and Gloria, were second cousins. They had no idea, but DNA didn't lie. Rudd handled it with a joke, saying, "That explains why I have 6 nipples," and wondering if that made his son his own uncle. The moment went viral. His health is legendary. People call him ageless. But there's no secret. He told Men's Health in 2023 that it comes down to 4 things: sleep, diet, weights, and cardio. He sleeps 8 hours, starts his day with cardio before food, eats eggs, salmon, and protein shakes with only water, no fruit, lifts weights 3 times a week, allows cheat meals but not cheat days. He said it helps him feel less like an imposter in the Ant-Man suit. He's 54 and still moves like someone half his age. And he gives back. In 2011, after the Joplin tornado, he co-founded Operation BBQ Relief. Since then, they've helped at 80 disasters in 25 states,